Yuki Tsuji, Leif Ove Ansnes, Mitsuko Uchida, and Evgeny Kissin this spring. Tickets and information at carnegiehall.org/piano.
The WNYC AM stream is ending March 22nd. You can find a list of all our live streams at wnyc.org or on the WNYC app.
Conclude Carnegie Hall presenting the Cleveland Orchestra with Franz Welser Most performing Stravinsky's Petrushka and Tchaikovsky's Fifth Symphony, March 19th. Tickets at carnegiehall.org.
This is WNYC 93.9 FM and AM 820, NPR News and the New York Conversation.
Marketplace is supported by Raymond James, tailored wealth management, banking, and capital markets solutions for clients' unique needs. Disclosures at raymondjames.com.
In one respect, a completely normal week in this economy. In most other respects, not. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Bitwarden Password Manager. Designed for individuals and businesses, Bitwarden helps secure sensitive information across devices without the need to remember multiple passwords for every account. Learn more at bitwarden.com. And by Bank of America. From local shops to global enterprises, Bank of America is committed to helping businesses of all sizes make every move matter. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/bankingforbusiness. And by Zealous. Zealous helps healthcare payers and providers nationwide to modernize the financial experience so care can flow through the system. Zealous, the financial platform that removes friction. Let care flow with Zealous.
In Los Angeles, I'm Kai Ryssdal. It is Friday today, the 7th of March. Good as always to have you along, everybody. As we end week 7 of the second Trump administration, where do you suppose things stand in this economy? Courtney Brown's at Axios, Heather Long's at the Washington Post. That is what we are going to talk about. Hey, you two.
Hi, Kai.
Hey, Kai.
Heather Long, let me begin with you. The normal thing that happened this week in this economy is, of course, the jobs report out today. 151,000 new jobs, 4.1% on the unemployment rate. You are a close reader of these reports. What was your favorite item? What stuck out to you?
Well, you're right. Overall, it looked pretty good. Like, if you didn't know all this other stuff was going on this week, you'd think, hey, we were chugging along with a pretty good economy that's still adding jobs. The two things that I'm really paying attention to, so much of our hiring lately has been in healthcare, and we saw that again today. That was the biggest sector by far. And obviously, President Trump and the House Republicans are talking about some pretty substantial cuts to Medicaid. I worry a lot about the future of healthcare hiring. The other thing that stood out to me, the one worrying part of the jobs report, was a lot of people are working part-time who wish they could work full-time. And that's usually one of those leading indicators of strain in the hiring market. So I think we got to pay a close attention on that. And obviously, with everything going on, it's hard to envision that hiring picks up. It seems like things were looking a little slower, a little weaker, even before Elon Musk started taking a lot of cuts to the federal government.
Courtney, let me ask you this. Among the not normal things that happened in this economy this week is the back and forth and the back and forth and then the back and forth again about tariffs and President Trump. I have two notes that I've written to myself here that I brought into the studio with me. One says, what kind of way is this to run an economy? And the other one says, it doesn't matter whether they're on or off. Businesses already have to deal with them as if they're on. So you pick which question you want to answer.
I think I'm going to try to tackle both of those things. All
right. Show's only half an hour long. Come on.
I know. I talked to someone who is obsessed with the USMCA, knows the trade pact that Trump negotiated in his first term very well. And I called him this week, and he simply said that you cannot conduct trade policy on a 30-day cycle, which has been kind of the crux of trade policy in the Trump era. As you say, it's hard to operate a business this way. when you don't know what to do, you kind of don't do anything. And that's not great for the economy when no one is doing anything, hiring, thinking of ways to expand their business.
Okay, but wait, there is that saying that, is something that can't continue. I don't even know what it is, but it's something like things go on until they can't continue and then they stop, right? And I don't know that we have any sense, Courtney, that this is going to stop. I mean, he was talking about 250% dairy tariffs today on Canada.
Yes, it is getting hard to keep track at this point, but you're right. There was something like a reprieve yesterday with the tariffs that were on for a bit on Canada and Mexico. And then today in the Oval Office, again, he was kind of beating down Canada and threatening to impose tariffs on lumber and dairy. And by the way, there's an investigation, a Section 232 investigation on lumber already underway. It's all very confusing and hard to keep track of. But I think the easiest way to put it is that it's very confusing. And as you say, there's no guarantee that any tariff or rollback of tariff is going to stick.
So, Heather Long, a piece you wrote the last couple of days, I apologize, it slips my mind, talking about the potential for a Trump recession. Here's my question, though. It used to be the presidents had a grace period before the economy became theirs, right? And eventually it became the Obama economy, the Bush economy, what have you. Donald Trump is now the American economy, right?
It's going to be harder and harder for him. I know they're trying to blame Biden for any downturn or even for the stock market declines this week. But just given how much he's done in these first 7 weeks and given how much he likes to tout everything that he's done, it's going to be harder and harder for him to distance himself from this record. And I think you're right. Out of all the chaos of this week, what we're going to look back and remember is this is the week that Wall Street began to actually believe a recession is possible, and a recession due to Trump's tariffs, not due to some weird other factor, but due to this president's policies. And that was a big momentum shift.
Well, keep going with that one for a minute. With the acknowledgement, Heather, that the stock market is not the economy, why does it matter? Why is it significant to you that this is the week that Wall Street rolled over?
Because you started to see this belief that there is no clear off-ramp, what you and Courtney were just talking about. Not only do the tariffs on again, off again, but there's just no clarity about why we're doing this. And that makes it really hard to see any possible end game. I mean, today in this discussion with Canada, right, we're going to suddenly renegotiate the border with Canada.
Yeah, literally the border, the boundary line.
Right. Yeah. So that's not going to happen. And that's what makes it really difficult to see how can we make a deal when there's no concrete deal to be made here.
Courtney, a word here about the Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, who has said a bunch of stuff this week. He said yesterday the economy needs a detox from all this government spending. He said, in essence, we're not really looking at the markets. He said it seems to be rolling over a bit. What do you make of nominally this chief economic advisor to the president?
I think those comments came in the morning, and a couple hours later, there was a very different tone from White House officials, talking to reporters, and of course, Trump himself talking in the Oval Office. It seemed like in the morning, it was not their economy, but they saw the jobs report and seemed to be pleased with what they saw. And so it was their economy. The head of the National Economic Council, Kevin Hassett, said that there were clear signs of Trump's impact in the jobs report. Of course, he was citing the job cuts of the federal government that were in the report. So it seems like Secretary Bessent was trying to distance the Trump administration from the state of the economy, but they got data they like, and so maybe they're trying to bring themselves a little bit closer to it for now.
We should point out here, Courtney, just to be on the record and really quickly, the jobs report that we got today does not reflect actually what has been happening with the federal workforce in full.
Exactly. But Yes, exactly. And they also tried to point out that the manufacturing sector looked very healthy this month. And of course, if his trade policy goes on, it could very much go the other way. So yeah, there are a lot of things they're trying to hang on Trump that are not necessarily true.
Yeah.
I hope they don't come to regret that detox economy is the new the new euphemism for downturn.
We shall see. That was Heather Long at the Washington Post, Courtney Brown at Axios on a Friday. Thanks, you two.
Thanks,
Guy.
Let's do the numbers. Dow Industrial's up 222 points today, about 0.5%, 42,801. The Nasdaq climbed 126 points, about 0.7%, 18,196. The S&P 500 added 31. That's points. The percentage is about 0.5%, 57 and 74. The 5 days gone by, the Dow dipped 2.4%. The Nasdaq slid 3.4%. S&P 500 down about 3 1/10. Megan McCarty-Carino was just telling us about Gap's big turnaround. Shares spiked, as I said, almost 20%, 18 8/10% if you want to be precise. Elsewhere in retail, Urban Outfitters shrank 1%. Ralph Lauren, or Lauren, I can never remember, slumped 2 4/10%. Bonds fell. Yield on the 10-year T-note increased to 4.31%. I'm sticking with Lauren. You're listening to Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Progressive Insurance. On the road and at home, customers can simplify their insurance needs and protect what's important by bundling home and auto with Progressive Insurance. Learn more about Progressive and bundling at Progressive.com. And by Pure Storage. In a world of fragmented systems, Pure Storage delivers a single, consistent as-a-service platform for all data storage needs across on-premises, cloud, and hosted environments. More at purestorage.com. And by Betterment, the automated investing app that does the work, allowing people to focus on what matters most. Learn more at Betterment.com. Investing involves risk.
I'm LaFontaine Oliver, President and CEO of New York Public Radio. Throughout this fundraiser, we've been talking about how cuts to our federal funding would destabilize public broadcasting. But what would that look like? During the wildfires in Los Angeles, we depended on public radio reporters in California for updates. We experienced what happens in New Orleans through stories from our partners in Louisiana and what happens in Baltimore from the team there. And when the rest of the country needs to know about an important story in New York, our neighbors hear about it from WNYC. Public radio is a community. Reporters across the country serving their local areas and the entire nation. And yes, public radio is an essential service. Efforts to cut our federal funding could severely compromise this important resource, a resource that exists for everyone. Stand with us. Start a monthly donation now. Here's how.
You pick up the phone and you call 888-376-9692. You can also click donate in the WNYC app or online at WNYC.org. I'm Sean Carlson here with Arun Venugopal, and we are here to reinforce LaFontaine's message there, which is a serious message, just a different message from what you may have heard in previous pledge drives. And it's that, certain funding sources are uncertain in the future. We get a certain amount of our funding from the federal government. We're not sure if we're going to be able to rely on that moving forward, which is why we're asking you at this critical moment, which is kind of a crazy contradiction in that, on one hand, WNYC has never been more valuable in the sense that we need a free, independent press that's powered by actual people who you can trust and rely on. But it's never been more uncertain than it is now, and more vulnerable than it is right now. So what we're asking you to do is stand up with the thousands of people who have already contributed to WNYC, stand up with them, and with one voice say, I want public media to be strong in my community. The way to do that is by becoming a member. It requires you to call and contribute at 888-376-9692. Or again, click donate, whether it's in the WNYC app or at WNYC.org.
Yeah, I mean, these are strange days, aren't they? These are disorienting times, I think, for a lot of people. If you're listening right now, you're feeling kind of adrift, wondering how to get your bearings right now. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're asking, where's my tribe? We're here to say we are. Yeah. We are public radio, and you are the public. that makes public radio. It was it's a very clear compact that we have, and we can take that relationship for granted. Right now we're saying do not take that for granted. Please step up and support us because we need it like we never did. Please call that number, 888-376-9692, or go online to WNYC.org, or go onto the app, WNYC's great app, and hit donate.
Psst. Hey there, sustaining member. Yeah, it's just us, WNYC. You only hear this because you're a sustaining member. It's a brand new technology, pretty cool. Not exactly sure how it works, or if I've completely made it up. But anyway, we just wanted to say thanks. We really appreciate you. And since I have you, I'd like to ask you to consider adding an extra $3 a month to your ongoing donation to help give WNYC an even more secure future and to help us provide you with the news you need and captivating conversations that you look forward to. $3 more a month will have an incredible impact. We count on you, and we know you count on us. Okay, I have to go talk to the others now. Again, you're the best sustaining member. You really are. $3 more. Here's how to do it.
Call 888-376-9692. You can also go online and make that contribution at WNYC.org. Click on donate. You can also make the contribution through the WNYC app. Again, all you got to do is click donate there as well. So here's the rub. You have 15 minutes left to get in on this Hugh Jackman action. I'm going to call it, it's like a Freakonomics thing. It's like, I'm going to call it the Hugh Jackman effect. We're going to see this spike on the graph of when we raise money. There's going to be a spike in those last 15 minutes. So we're going to say, believe it or not, that is due to the Hugh Jackman effect, which is to say you can get 2 tickets. You can win 2 tickets to see Hugh Jackman at Radio City Music Hall. You were entered to win 2 of those tickets and also get a meet and greet with Hugh Jackman before the show. He's going to be performing songs from some of his well-known stage productions. You will be entered to win that. He's going to do 21 dates over the next coming months. Be entered to win a chance to see that. It's just a cherry on top of the point here is just to contribute to public media in your community. 888-376-9692 or WNYC.org or on the WNYC app. And thanks.
This is Marketplace. I'm Kai Ryssdal. As Heather alluded to up at the top of the program, there were some details in that jobs report this morning that suggest the labor market might be softening just a touch. To wit, the number of people who said basically that they're stuck in part-time jobs when they'd really prefer full-time work was up about 10%. Marketplace's Kimberly Adams takes it from there.
The Bureau of Labor Statistics actually has 6 different ways of measuring unemployment, named memorably U1 through U6. The official unemployment rate, that's U3, and it came in today at 4.1%.
But they also have a broader measure, which includes discouraged workers, marginally attached workers, and people who are involuntarily working part-time.
And it's called U6, says Jeremy Reynolds, a Purdue sociologist who studies work in organizations.
And that measure has risen to 8%. And that's the highest level that measure has been at since 2021.
Then there was that big increase in the number of people working part-time who wish they could work full-time. Lonnie Golden is a professor of economics at Penn State Abington.
The jump in part-time for economic reasons was surprising. It had been creeping up in the last few months, but it really jumped up.
Up by 460,000 people in February, bringing the total to just under 5 million. Some of that, says Golden, may have to do with the decrease in the number of so-called discouraged workers, people who have given up on looking for a job. That was down almost 130,000 last month.
And when they come back into the workforce, indeed, they're looking either for part-time, which would be voluntary, or maybe full-time opportunities that are not there, so they're taking part-time instead.
One reason for all the part-time work is the instability in the broader economy.
People are taking a more cautious approach to looking for a job, and employers are taking a more cautious approach when it comes to hiring and which positions they're hiring for.
Because with everything going on, it's almost impossible to predict what's ahead for the job market. In Washington, I'm Kimberly Adams for Marketplace.
So the jobs report, as we were talking about, uneventful really, pretty close to expectations, no huge surprises. However, as often happens, You dig in a bit and you find some stuff. As we mentioned, the unemployment rate rose slightly last month, 4.1%, because the number of unemployed people went up while the number of people in the labor force went down. So far, so good, right? Meanwhile, the number of people employed in February fell by 588,000. But at the same time, U.S. employers added 151,000 jobs to their payrolls. And that's where the math gets a little tricky, right? Employment went down. The number of jobs, though, went up. Good thing Marketplace's Mitchell Hartman works here, huh?
We call it the monthly jobs report, but actually it's two reports mashed together by the Bureau of Labor Statistics based on two surveys the agency does each month. And they can disagree because they go to different sources for different information. The household survey asks people whether they're working or looking for work. The payroll survey asks employers how many jobs they have. And that survey is a lot bigger, says Dory Allard at the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
121,000 businesses or government agencies, 631,000 individual work sites, and there is a lot more stability in those estimates than there is in the household survey, which is relying on interviews from approximately 60,000 households.
In the household survey, a change in employment is only considered statistically significant if it's above 600,000. Economist Joe Bruce-Wellis at consulting firm RSM says February's employment decline was big, but not that big.
Given the large standard error inside that report, we really want to be cautious about overreacting.
Elise Gould at the Economic Policy Institute agrees for a single month, the household survey is less reliable.
When the surveys tell a different story, we got to take the payroll survey, give that more weight because of the sample size.
But, she says, over time,
the household survey can't be ignored. Sometimes the household survey is better at predicting changes in the business cycle. It might find softening sooner.
The survey has been sending warning signals about long-term unemployment, says Joe Bruce-Wellis.
There's a large number of people who've been unemployed for 6 months or more.
But the survey is telling a different story about America's least educated workers, says Jane Oates at news site Working Nation.
An increase in the labor market participation of people with less than high school and a drop in their unemployment.
As for the current divergence between the payroll and household surveys, Dory Allard at BLS says give it a few months.
Over the long term, the two series do tend to track well together,
with overall trends pointing in the same general direction. I'm Mitchell Hartman for Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Solidigm. Today's AI ambitions require a different approach to storage. Solidigm offers solid-state storage solutions optimized for AI with higher capacities, greater speed, and energy efficiency. StorageForAI.com. And by Cencora, bringing the companies and capabilities of AmerisourceBergen together under one new name. Built on 150 years of innovation, Cencora is dedicated to improving the health of people and animals worldwide at Cencora.com.
This final note on the way out today, in which I'm just going to say people need some downtime, you know? The president of the NASDAQ said in a blog post today that his exchange is working with regulators to offer 24-hour trading Monday through Friday. Yes, you can already trade after hours, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. and pre-market as well, but those are limited. NASDAQ, though, says demand for U.S. equities trading is really, really strong. I get it, but life's already pretty busy, no? Our theme music was composed by B.J. Liederman. Marketplace's executive producer is Nancy Fargali. Donna Tam is the executive editor. Neil Scarborough is the vice president and general manager. And I'm Kyle Rizdal. Have yourselves a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you back here on Monday, all right? This is APM.